Grey Lady Down wasn't just a submarine disaster film. It was Charlton Heston's fifth Universal project in 2 years, as he cranked out genre pictures to maintain stardom. Christopher Reeve's feature film debut 8 months before Superman made him immortal, a production that recycled submarine footage and models from Ice Station Zebra 10 years earlier, and the movie where Universal built a 12-foot deep, 44-foot wide water tank specifically to sink a miniature nuclear submarine over and over again. Behind the claustrophobic hull breaches and desperate rescue attempts lay a production based on David Lavallee's 1971 novel that Mirish Corporation developed under their exclusive Universal deal, a filming schedule rearranged so Heston could promote Midway in Germany, Jerry Fielding's final submarine score before his death, and a same-day release strategy pairing the theatrical premiere with a Backstage with Charlton Heston television special designed to maximize the aging star's promotional value. What audiences saw as a tense rescue thriller was actually Universal's efficient B-picture assembly line cranking out product, casting future Superman and future Oscar nominees in bit parts while recycling decade-old footage to save money. Today, we're diving to the ocean floor to reveal 13 facts about Grey Lady Down and stick around for a bonus fact about the submarine that became more famous than the film itself. Number 13. Heston's fifth Universal project. Grey Lady Down represented Charlton Heston's fifth project for Universal Pictures in just 2 years, demonstrating the aging star's relentless work ethic and willingness to churn out genre pictures to maintain relevance. Universal announced the project in February 1976 as part of their ongoing partnership with Heston, who had become the studio's reliable leading man for disaster and action films throughout the mid-1970s. Heston's Universal relationship included Earthquake, 1974, Airport, 1975, 1974, The Last Hard Men, 1976, 2-Minute Warning, 1976, and now Grey Lady Down. This assembly line approach to stardom represented a significant shift from Heston's 1960s prestige. He'd gone from Ben-Hur and El Cid to disaster movie supporting roles and B-grade thrillers. But Heston remained pragmatic about his career, understanding that consistent work mattered more than artistic pretension. Universal valued Heston's professionalism and box office reliability, even as his star power dimmed. Grey Lady Down gave him top billing and command of a nuclear submarine, allowing him to maintain leading man status even in a modest production. The collaboration demonstrated Hollywood's studio system efficiency. Universal had a star under contract, a submarine story to produce, and they paired them together regardless of whether the combination made creative sense. Number 12. Mirish Corporation's Universal deal. Grey Lady Down was produced under the Mirish Corporation's 5-year exclusive production and distribution deal with Universal Pictures, a partnership that shaped the film's development, budget, and creative approach. The Mirish brothers Walter, Harold, and Marvin had built their company producing mid-budget genre films throughout the 1960s and 1970s, including The Magnificent Seven, The Great Escape, and the Pink Panther series. By the mid-1970s, the Mirish Corporation focused primarily on producing for Universal, their exclusive deal guaranteeing distribution while giving them production autonomy. Grey Lady Down fit the Mirish model perfectly, a commercial genre film with recognizable stars, modest budget, and straightforward narrative designed for profitability rather than awards consideration. The Mirish approach emphasized efficiency and professionalism over auteurism or innovation. They delivered films on schedule and on budget, making them valuable partners for Universal's production slate. Grey Lady Down represented exactly the kind of product the Mirish-Universal partnership was designed to generate: competent, commercial, forgettable. The film would earn its money back, play on television for decades, and disappear from cultural memory while keeping both companies profitable. Number 11. Event 1000 novel adaptation. The screenplay by James Whittaker and Howard Sackler adapted David Lavallee's 1971 novel Event 1000, a submarine disaster thriller that examined the technical and human challenges of deep-sea rescue operations. Lavallee, himself a submariner, brought authentic naval knowledge to the novel, creating procedurally accurate scenarios that distinguished his work from typical disaster fiction. The adaptation process streamlined Lavallee's complex narrative into a straightforward rescue thriller focused on Heston's Captain Gates. The novel's technical detail was simplified for mainstream audiences unfamiliar with submarine operations, and the human drama was intensified to provide emotional stakes beyond the mechanical rescue procedures. Sackler, who had won the Pulitzer Prize for Drama with The Great White Hope, 1968, brought literary credibility to what was essentially a B-picture assignment. His involvement suggests the producers initially had higher ambitions for Grey Lady Down, hoping prestigious writers would elevate genre material, but the final screenplay remained workmanlike rather than distinguished, serving the story's functional needs without attempting thematic depth or character complexity. Number 10. Reeve and O'Keefe's debuts. Grey Lady Down marked the feature film debuts of two future stars, Christopher Reeve and Michael O'Keefe, both cast in small supporting roles as submarine crew members. Reeve, still unknown to audiences, played Phillips, a minor character with minimal dialogue. 8 months after Grey Lady Down's March 1978 release, Reeve would become an international superstar when Superman opened in December 1978, transforming him from obscure theater actor to Hollywood leading man overnight. O'Keefe, cast as another crew member, would go on to earn an Oscar nomination for The Great Santini, 1979, just a year after Grey Lady Down, then achieve wider fame in Caddyshack, 1980. Both actors used Grey Lady Down as a stepping stone, their bit parts providing screen time and union credentials that opened doors to larger opportunities. The casting demonstrates Hollywood's perpetual search for fresh faces. Even low-budget submarine thrillers served as testing grounds where directors could evaluate young talent in small roles before promoting them to starring vehicles. Neither Reeve nor O'Keefe distinguished themselves in Grey Lady Down, their performances entirely functional and forgettable. But the film gave them professional experience and screen credits that proved valuable when better opportunities emerged months later. Number 9. September 1976 filming start. Principal photography began September 20, 1976, with location filming and stage work at Universal Studios continuing through late 1976. The production schedule was designed for efficiency, with most submarine interior scenes shot on sound stages using constructed sets that replicated nuclear submarine compartments. Exterior submarine footage was captured using models and miniatures filmed in the specially constructed water tank. Director David Green, a television veteran making one of his rare theatrical features, approached Grey Lady Down with workmanlike professionalism rather than artistic ambition. Green had directed numerous television movies and episodic television, bringing technical competence but little visual distinction to the production. His staging emphasized clarity and functionality over stylistic flourishes, keeping the submarine interiors well lit and comprehensible rather than creating the dark, claustrophobic atmosphere that more ambitious directors might have pursued. The September start date allowed Universal to complete post-production in time for a March 1978 release, fitting the film into their distribution schedule alongside bigger productions. The tight timeline meant Green had limited time for experimentation or multiple takes, reinforcing the efficient, assembly line approach that characterized the entire production. Number 8. Universal's custom water tank. Universal Studios constructed a specialized water tank measuring 12 feet deep and 44 feet wide specifically for filming Grey Lady Down's submarine miniature sequences. The tank was built on a soundstage, allowing controlled lighting and camera placement while providing sufficient depth to create convincing underwater illusions with scale models. The tank construction represented significant investment in practical effects at a time when submarine films were considered risky commercial propositions. The 12-foot depth allowed filmmakers to create layered shots with miniature submarines at different depths within the frame, generating convincing visual separation between surface vessels and the sunken submarine far below. The 44-foot width provided enough horizontal space to stage rescue vessel approaches and maneuvering sequences without the cramped compositions that smaller tanks would have forced. Special effects supervisor Gordon Hubbard oversaw the tank filming, coordinating multiple miniature submarines, the nuclear sub USS Neptune, the rescue vessel Pigeon, and the experimental Deep Submergence Rescue Vehicle. The tank would be reused for subsequent Universal productions requiring underwater sequences, justifying the construction expense across multiple films. Number 7. Midway promotion schedule conflict. Charlton Heston's filming schedule for Grey Lady Down was deliberately modified to accommodate his promotional commitments for Midway, 1976, which required him to travel to Germany for the film's European release. Universal coordinated the two productions, both starring Heston, both distributed by Universal to maximize their investment in the actor's promotional value. The scheduling accommodation demonstrates how studios managed their contracted stars across multiple projects simultaneously. Heston would film Grey Lady Down sequences, break for Midway promotion overseas, then return to complete remaining scenes. This fragmented filming approach was inefficient but necessary to serve Universal's broader distribution strategy. Midway, a major World War II epic with all-star ensemble cast, represented a bigger commercial priority than Grey Lady Down. Universal needed Heston promoting the expensive war film in key international markets, even if it complicated the submarine film's production schedule. The compromise satisfied both needs. Midway received its star's promotional support, and Grey Lady Down eventually got its leading man back to complete filming. Number 6. Ice Station Zebra Recycling. Grey Lady Down extensively recycled submarine footage and miniature models from Ice Station Zebra, 1968, a Cold War thriller that Universal had produced a decade earlier. The studio maintained an extensive library of stock footage and physical production assets, and cost-conscious producers routinely reused expensive elements rather than creating new ones from scratch. Ice Station Zebra had featured elaborate submarine miniatures and underwater sequences that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to produce. By 1976, those assets sat in Universal's storage facilities, fully paid for and available for reuse. Grey Lady Down's producers incorporated this footage into their submarine sequences, disguising the recycling through creative editing and new contextual framing. Audiences unfamiliar with Ice Station Zebra wouldn't recognize the borrowed material, while the reuse saved Grey Lady Down's production budget tens of thousands of dollars that would have been spent on new miniatures and effects photography. This recycling strategy was standard practice for B pictures and genre films throughout Hollywood history. Studios treated expensive production elements as capital investments that could generate value across multiple productions, amortizing costs over decades of reuse. Number 5. Jerry Fielding's final subscore. Composer Jerry Fielding created the orchestral score for Grey Lady Down, marking one of his final submarine film scores before his death in 1980. Fielding, a distinguished composer known for his work with Sam Peckinpah on The Wild Bunch and Straw Dogs, brought professional craftsmanship to what was essentially a routine assignment. Fielding's Grey Lady Down score featured tense string arrangements during crisis sequences, militaristic brass during naval procedural scenes, and somber woodwinds for character moments. The music was competent but not particularly memorable, serving the film's functional needs without attempting the thematic complexity of Fielding's better-known work. For a composer of Fielding's stature, Grey Lady Down represented journeyman work, a paying gig that didn't challenge his abilities but kept him employed between more prestigious assignments. Fielding had scored The Outlaw Josie Wales, 1976, for Clint Eastwood the same year he worked on Grey Lady Down, demonstrating the range of projects even accomplished composers accepted to maintain steady income. His Grey Lady Down score received no awards consideration and was never released as a standalone album, disappearing into obscurity along with the film itself. Number 4. Same-day television special strategy. Universal coordinated Grey Lady Down's March 10, 1978 theatrical release with a television special titled Backstage with Charlton Heston that aired the same evening, creating a multimedia promotional event designed to maximize the aging star's visibility. The television special featured behind-the-scenes footage from Grey Lady Down's production, alongside interviews with Heston discussing his career and approach to acting. This coordinated release strategy represented Universal's attempt to leverage television's mass reach to drive theatrical attendance. Audiences watching Backstage with Charlton Heston on Friday night would see Grey Lady Down promotion and potentially decide to see the film that weekend. The strategy acknowledged Heston's greater value as a television personality than as a theatrical draw. By 1978, the star's box office power had diminished significantly from his 1960s peak. Television offered a platform where Heston's name recognition and professional reputation still commanded respect, even as younger moviegoers increasingly ignored his theatrical releases. The same day, coordination required extensive planning, with the television special produced months in advance and held for release to coincide with the film's opening. Universal hoped the dual exposure would create synergy that neither the film nor the special could generate independently. Number 3. David Green's theatrical rarity. Director David Green was primarily a television director, and Grey Lady Down represented one of his few theatrical feature assignments in a career dominated by television movies and episodic work. Green had directed the television film Madame Sin, 1972, and Rich Man, Poor Man, 1976, but theatrical features remained rare in his filmography. Green's television background shaped Grey Lady Down's aesthetic. The film features flat, functional lighting, straightforward coverage with minimal stylistic flourishes, and emphasis on narrative clarity over visual poetry. This approach served the submarine thriller's procedural needs adequately, but denied the film any distinctive visual identity. More ambitious directors might have used the submarine setting to create claustrophobic expressionism or visual metaphors, but Green simply documented the story competently. His workmanlike approach made him an ideal universal contract director. He delivered projects on time and on budget without artistic demands that might complicate production. Green would return to television immediately after Grey Lady Down, directing television movies and miniseries for the remainder of his career. The theatrical feature represented an aberration rather than a career turning point, demonstrating that some directors were simply better suited to television's efficiency and budget constraints than cinema's artistic possibilities. Number 2. USS Pigeon and Deep Submergence Rescue Vehicle. The film prominently featured the USS Pigeon, ASR-21, a real Pigeon-class submarine rescue ship, and Deep Submergence Rescue Vehicle, cutting-edge technology in the 1970s that represented the Navy's most advanced submarine rescue capability. The Navy provided significant cooperation for the production, allowing filming aboard actual vessels and providing technical advisors to ensure procedural accuracy. The Deep Submergence Rescue Vehicle was particularly important to Grey Lady Down's plot, and marketing these sophisticated miniature submarines could dive to 5,000 feet and dock with disabled submarines to evacuate crew members. Only 2 Deep Submergence Rescue Vehicles existed when Grey Lady Down was filmed, making them exotic technology that fascinated audiences. The film's depiction of Deep Submergence Rescue Vehicle operations provided rare public glimpse of classified rescue procedures, generating Navy public relations value that justified their cooperation with Universal. The USS Pigeon's participation allowed Grey Lady Down to feature authentic submarine rescue operations rather than relying entirely on mock-ups and miniatures. The Navy's cooperation came with restrictions. The film couldn't depict any procedures or equipment that remained classified, and technical advisors reviewed the script to ensure nothing compromised operational security. This military oversight shaped Grey Lady Down's approach to its subject matter, keeping the film focused on human drama rather than technical exposition that might reveal sensitive information. Number 1. Ronny Cox's Commander Samuelson. Character actor Ronny Cox played Commander David Samuelson, the executive officer scheduled to take command of the USS Neptune from Captain Blanchard, Charlton Heston, following the submarine's final patrol. Cox, who had made a strong impression in Deliverance, 1972, 6 years earlier, was building a solid career in supporting roles when Grey Lady Down offered him this pivotal part. Cox's Samuelson represents the tragedy of the disaster. He is the competent, by-the-book officer whose career is cut short not by failure, but by fate. The character serves as the emotional catalyst for the film's first act. During the initial collision, Samuelson sacrifices himself to seal a bulkhead, saving the surviving crew members in the unflooded compartments. Cox brings a quiet, professional intensity to the role, making his sudden loss felt deeply by Heston's character and the audience. The performance demonstrated Cox's skill at creating fully realized characters in limited screen time, a talent that would serve him throughout a long career in films like RoboCop 1987 and Total Recall 1990. Bonus fact: the real star, the Deep Submergence Rescue Vehicle. While the actors provided the drama, the true star of the film was the Deep Submergence Rescue Vehicle. Grey Lady Down was the public's first major look at this genuine Navy technology, specifically the Deep Submergence Rescue Vehicle 1 Mystic. Developed in direct response to the tragic loss of the USS Thresher in 1963, the Deep Submergence Rescue Vehicle was designed to mate with the hatch of a sunken submarine and ferry crew to the surface in groups. The production was granted unprecedented access to film the real Deep Submergence Rescue Vehicle 1 and its mothership, the USS Pigeon, ASR-21, off the coast of San Diego. While the film's plot involving the collision is fiction, the rescue technology depicted was real. The Deep Submergence Rescue Vehicle program became legendary in naval history, remaining in service until 2008. The footage of the Deep Submergence Rescue Vehicle docking remains some of the most accurate depictions of submarine rescue ever filmed because it wasn't a special effect. It was the actual vehicle in operation, provided by the Navy to show off their new life-saving capabilities.